US President Donald Trump stated that the United States was planning to hold talks with Iran the following week, adding that a possible agreement regarding Tehran's nuclear program might be on the table. He mentioned uncertainty about the outcome but noted the potential for a deal.
We're going to talk to them next week with Iran. We may sign an agreement. I don't know. To me, I don't think it's that necessary. I mean, they had a war, they fought, now they're going back to their world. I don't care if I have an agreement or not.
Trump also said he believed the war between Iran and Israel was over, explaining that both sides appeared tired and eager to end the conflict. According to him, after intense and violent fighting, both nations seemed satisfied with stepping back and returning to a state of calm.
Because I dealt with both, and they're both tired, exhausted. They fought very, very hard and very viciously, very violently, and they were both satisfied to go home and get out. And can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon.
Meanwhile, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, cautioned that Iran's possible withdrawal from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty would be a very regrettable development. Speaking during a joint news briefing in Austria, he said that such a move would not benefit anyone and warned it could lead to Iran's isolation and significantly erode the structure of the NPT.
I don't think this would help anybody, starting with Iran. This would lead to isolation, all sorts of problems, and why not? Perhaps, if not the unraveling, a very, very, very serious erosion in the NPT structure. Warps and all, as they say in English, the NPT has served us well. We do not have 40 countries with nuclear weapons, which could perfectly be the case had we not had this treaty. So I think, of course, hard words and emotions are, of course, perhaps normal, or if not normal, inevitable at times of war, but we are working for diplomacy.
Grossi also addressed concerns over Iran's highly enriched uranium stockpiles following its recent conflict with Israel. He identified the return of inspectors to Iranian nuclear sites as the IAEA's top priority, although he acknowledged that doing so would not be easy. He emphasized the need for prompt engagement with Iranian authorities. Responding to the US president's remark, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baqai told Al Jazeera that Tehran had no trust in the United States, accusing Washington of undermining diplomacy. He referred to what he described as a month of contradictory messages from US officials who, on one hand, spoke of diplomacy while on the other approved Israeli attacks on Iran. He questioned how trust could survive under such conditions and accused the United States of deliberately sabotaging diplomatic efforts. However, Baqai reiterated that Iran remained committed to diplomacy, stating that engagement with various actors had continued even during the conflict with Israel. Nonetheless, he stressed that Iran's foremost concern was national security, and it would need to undermine whether the United States was genuinely serious before re-engaging diplomatically. On the issue of Iran's cooperation with the IAEA, Baqai confirmed that Iran's parliament had passed the legislation to suspend but not end its collaboration with the UN nuclear watchdog. He said this move should be seen as a natural reaction by a country that had experienced a severe act of aggression. According to him, the new legislation set terms for the future cooperation, such as ensuring the safety of Iranian scientists and nuclear facilities and recognizing Iran's rights under the NPT. He argued that if Iran were to remain a responsible member of the treaty, it must also be allowed to exercise the rights granted to all signatories. When asked about the state of Iran's nuclear installations following US and Israeli attacks, Baqai confirmed they had suffered a significant damage. He said the issue was being addressed by Iran's Atomic Energy Organization and related agencies. In a separate development, Hezbollah congratulated Iran on what it described as a divine victory over Israel. It credited precise strikes against Israel and swift retaliation to US attacks on Iranian nuclear sites as marking a new phase in the resistance against American and Israeli influence in the region. NATO leaders have agreed to significantly increase defense spending and reaffirm their commitment to collective defense during a summit in The Hague, Netherlands. The decision follows pressure from the US President Donald Trump and growing concerns about Russian aggression since the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. In a joint statement, NATO endorsed a new target of spending 5% of the GDP on defense by 2035. This new benchmark, a notable jump from the current 2% goal, breaks down into 3.5% for core defense needs such as troops and weapons, and 1.5% for broader defense-related measures like cybersecurity, pipeline protection, and infrastructure upgrades for military use. The 32-member alliance emphasized their commitment to Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, that attack on one is an attack on all, after Trump raised eyebrows by suggesting there were numerous definitions of the clause. However, he later reassured allies, saying, "We are with them all the way." Trump celebrated the summit's outcome, calling it a great victory for everyone and a big success. He said countries would soon be equalized in terms of defense spending, which he's long advocated for. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte acknowledged the difficulty for European countries and Canada in meeting the new target, but insisted it was necessary given current global threats. Pakistan and the United States have agreed to conclude ongoing trade negotiations next week. This follows a virtual meeting between Finance Minister Mohammad Aurangzeb and U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. The talks are focused on reciprocal tariffs and are part of a broader effort to reset economic relations amid shifting global dynamics. A statement from Pakistan's Finance Ministry confirmed that both sides expressed satisfaction with the progress so far and are committed to wrapping up the technical level discussions next week. Pakistan is currently facing a 29% tariff on its import to US under the trade policies from the Trump era. In 2024, Pakistan recorded a $3 billion trade surplus with the United States. To ease tariff pressure and rebalance trade, Pakistan has proposed increasing imports of US goods, such as crude oil, and offering US companies investment opportunities in Pakistan's mining sector. Earlier this week, the two countries co-hosted a webinar to promote investment in Pakistan's mineral resources, including the $7 billion Reko Diq copper-gold project. US officials, investors, and their Pakistani counterparts discussed regulatory reforms and public-private partnerships. Meanwhile, Pakistan's power regulator, NEPRA, has slashed the base electricity tariff by Rs 1.49 per unit for the 2025-26 fiscal year. This development was confirmed by NEPRA's spokesperson Safir Hussain, who said the proposal had been sent to the federal government. In another major development, Pakistan and the UAE have signed a memorandum of understanding on mutual visa exemption for diplomatic and official passport holders. This took place during the 12th session of the Pakistan-UAE Joint Ministerial Commission held in Abu Dhabi, the first such meeting in 13 years. The session reviewed wide-ranging bilateral cooperation in trade, energy, healthcare, education, and artificial intelligence. Both sides signed several agreements and expressed satisfaction with the outcomes, agreeing to hold their next session in Pakistan. The UAE remains Pakistan's third largest trading partner and second largest source of remittances after Saudi Arabia.